Welcome to the July meeting of the Historic Review Board. I would also like to welcome our newly appointed members, Liliana Welliver and Sam Childers. Now for the chair's statement. The Historic Review Board is an advisory board appointed by the City Council. I am Jessica Middle, Vice Chair of the Historic Review Board. It is a function of the board to consider all applications for certificates of appropriateness for properties in the historic district and for landmarks. In considering whether to approve or disapprove of an application for a certificate of appropriateness, the Historic Review Board shall be guided by the City of Fredericksburg design guidelines and standards and the Historic Preservation Ordinance. If anyone present wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to any item on today's agenda, please sign up on the Persons to be Heard sheet. It is not necessary to sign up to speak if you are the owner of or representative for a project on the agenda. You will be called on it as the case is called. Approval by the board does not take place of any type of permit. Permits must be obtained for all work. No work of any type is to be started without obtaining the appropriate city permits after a certificate of appropriateness has been issued by the Historic Preservation Officer. Do we have anyone on the sign up to be heard sheet? Okay. So we will move forward with the Historic Preservation Officer's report. Anna?
Good evening, board. I also wanted to welcome our newest members, Liliana and Sam. The good news is they both fill important roles for our board. As you know, we're a certified local government, and we are required to have certain membership. And so Liliana is an architect and Sam is a historian, both fill two important roles for our board. So look forward to working with both of them and adding to our board. I also want to give an update on the Historic Preservation Grant. That was $35,000 allotted this year, and we had 4 applications, and we were able to award all 4 applicants some level of support for the rehab work. So I thank Amy and Jessica for attending that meeting and helping with that process. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Anna. Regarding the approval of the June meeting minutes, are there any changes or corrections? Okay. Hearing none, the minutes stand approved as presented. So we're going to move to item 7, certificate appropriate applications, consent agenda. So the items under the consent agenda are deemed by the Historic Preservation Officer to be routine in nature and will be approved by one motion of the board adopting the staff findings and recommendation as part of the approval. The items of the consent agenda will not be discussed. Any member of the board or the public that wishes to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed and placed on the individual consideration agenda. Would any of the members like to remove one of these applications?
Yes, Ms. Vice Chairman. I want to remove application 22067, 305 South Crockett application to discuss the fence on.
Okay, great.
Is here.
Okay.
Can talk about it.
Perfect. So can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda application 22-062 and application 22-061 and remove 22-067?
Yeah, I'll make that motion. To remove 22067 and let the other ones be approved.
I'll second that.
Okay. Let's see. So we will moving forward to individual consideration. Is there a representative here for application 22?
Can we take number B first? The one that was pulled from consent.
Do it.
The one that was pulled from consent?
Yes.
Okay.
067. 305 South Crockett. If you don't mind coming up to the podium and joining us and telling us a little bit about your project.
Yeah, let me say, I love the design. I'm totally in favor of it. There was a photograph on our agenda packet. Excuse me here while I find it. Someone can help me. Here it
Page
is, page
16.
19. First, I just wanted a clarification where this fence is going to be. Is it the east property line or the south property line, meaning between the existing home that y'all purchased
Right.
or the one further down creek?
So I am texting with the designer because was making sure we're on the same page. She said that she spoke with the fire marshal, 2 to 3, or she emailed. She hadn't heard back, but she put it 8 to 9 feet between the houses, and she pushed it back where really there's not a fence between the two houses, but the fence starts more on the backyard. That's what she was just saying. And I'm looking at the picture. It looks like she's just stopped it to where it encloses, like right when the back porch area is. And then it's an L shape between the house behind it, the White House that was on it, and then the backyard. So she doesn't have any fence in between the actual house part and the neighbor's house on the east side.
Okay, looking at the drawing, it appears that the fence stops. I'm assuming this is the rear of the house, the carport.
Yes.
So it stops really at where the house begins, the enclosed portion of the house begins. And I really want to hear the board process this. We've had a lot of discussion on fences, on fence heights, on fence materials, and all I want to do is just be consistent. And that's why I wanted to pull it from the consent agenda. We've limited it to 6 feet. I know Richard had an application that he pulled on the fence portion because his client was wanting to build taller than 6 feet. Is this going to be 6 feet? You said 8?
Yes. Total feet is 6 feet.
Okay. And then the style of it, you're wanting to incorporate vertical boards, but then have a mesh portion on the top.
Yes.
I just want the board to make sure they see that. The way it's designed, it's not highly visible because it doesn't go all the way to creek.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I know I have a better sense of where it is, I'm less opposed to it, but I'd love to know if there's any other comments on the board.
Does anyone have any comments or would somebody?
No, I'm thinking about this.
Thank you.
Is it the style of fence?
Yeah. That's not a historic looking fence. Again, not hugely opposed to it because it's largely unseen. It is in the core of the historic district, and it's not something we've normally approved.
We're not opposed to changing that. That's fine. It's just we thought we liked the look of it, so we thought we'd present it. So we're open to suggestions or whatever you recommend.
I mean, I know the board would approve that fence with the boards going all the way up to the 6 feet mark. without the wire mesh.
Yep.
That's something you're okay with.
We're
and
fine
willing
with
to
that.
do. And I make a motion to approve application 22-067, with the exception being that the 6-foot fence has vertical boards all the way to the top and does not include the wire mesh.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed, say sign. Application 22-067, 305 South Crockett. Passed. Okay, next we have application number 21-085, 209 East Washington. Anna, do you have comments on that one? Oh, 209 East San Antonio, I'm sorry.
And I just want to let the applicants for 501 North Adams and 612 North Llano, your project has been approved. Okay, application 2185 at 209 East San Antonio. It's in the Central Business District, and it has a high rating. The applicant is requesting final approval of new outdoor bar and restrooms with wood siding, new steel and wood trellis or pergola with a translucent rigid roof, and will be located next to the existing historic structure. East side of the pergola to have a decorative block on top of wood siding. Vinyl windows to be replaced with wood-clad aluminum windows. And the OMA loop or looped wire fencing on site will be salvaged and stored for reuse. So I've cited the relevant sections for additions, windows. Staff's recommendation: the new restroom and bar will not impact the historic fabric and are sufficiently different than the historic home. Staff recommends approval. Item 2, the proposed pergola addition does not damage historic fabric. However, as presented, the decorative block will obstruct part of the view of the east elevation. The block was not represented in the conceptual drawings. Openness of the outdoor seating should be retained as much as possible. Staff recommends that the outdoor seating area not become enclosed space in the future. Staff recommends approval of the replacement of the non-original vinyl windows with the proposed aluminum-clad windows that are a better match to the original wood windows. Item 4, staff recommends the retention and reuse of the garden loop fencing.
Do we have a representative of the property? Welcome. Tell us a little bit, please state your name.
I'm Bill Carpenter.
Okay, great. And tell us a little bit about your project or address some of Anna's questions, please.
There's a bunch of them, so let's start with, what's the first one you want to know about?
Let's see.
We had the green light for this a while back, but somehow it got reversed, so I'm kind of curious about all this.
I'm not sure what the green light was. I know there's some communication to bring it back when you get further down the road. But the two things I want to talk about is, one, what we're talking about is a setback from the corner of a home. Almost in every instance, what we've tried to do is preserve corners.
I think you can see in that picture, you can see the whole corner. What would you like
Yeah,
for us
it's
to do?
difficult. You can. I think what, at least again, I maybe have misunderstood you. It appeared to us that you were talking about pulling it back away from the house versus pushing it back from the corner. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Sure. You want to go further south?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Is that what you are saying you did?
No, we were never asked to push it back. We were asked to push it to the east a distance, which we did, I think. We removed some of the,
So
we've done so much. I don't know.
so is the problem where the pergola meets the house? Is that the issue?
Yes.
Yeah, we've got some historic district guidelines and standards with pretty good illustrations
Okay.
On page 346, 346.
But y'all gotta be consistent throughout the city.
Yeah, we've done that. Since
No,
I've
we
been on the
haven't. I'm
board,
sorry. I've driven around town, I see things are completely covered up.
yeah, since I've been on the board, I
Oh, okay, I don't know how
I don't
you've
know
been.
about before. I mean, I'm
Okay.
assuming we've been consistent all
All right.
along, but I know.
Well,
there's
we're
some
here.
people-
We want to satisfy
Yeah,
everybody,
there's
of
two
course.
gentlemen in here right now that will attest that they came through with a huge project, and we were very clear about preserving corners.
So on this one here, what would you like for us to do? What's your advice?
If you look next door at the pizza place, you can still see the historic home, or a large part of it.
Uh-huh.
That's number one. But number two is we're looking at on the corners, on the corner of the historic home, we'd like you to push that back from the corner. We typically have said 10 feet. If there's a design issue, then we're open to that.
How about if we push it to the east?
Well, by looking at your design, I don't know what your long-term plan is and how you're going to cover it, but yeah, let's see if I can see what you're. You're going to have a roof. Is your roof going to tie into even with the front of the building?
Because there's a covered patio right there and it has to be covered. That's for outdoor seating.
Right.
Instead of,
True. But we take it back. Are we going to cut in our parking back there? Yeah.
back doesn't work.
This drawing here.
This pergola is completely independent, a free structure of the old home, or is it
Yes.
attached? There's
No, it's
some-
not attached.
Okay.
No.
So if it were moved further east, would open air space be considered a hyphen?
I don't think it would be considered a hyphen because I think the hyphen reduces the amount of coverage, right? I think that's Michael's point, is that in this layout, it's just not as visible. The corner is not visible because this ceiling or roof is projecting out beyond the corner of the house.
Right.
So some type of adjustment to pull it off this corner, pull it back. We can use that term, back to the south. Yeah.
South, yeah.
Yeah.
How far do you want to pull that back?
The guidelines are written at 10 feet.
10 feet from the front corner of the house?
Yes, sir.
I wish we had known this a while back. Anyway, all right, so it's going to cut into our parking, obviously. So there we go. I'll ditch the parking in the back and move it backwards.
And on one of the drawings, it shows that the addition is actually even with the house. It doesn't protrude like that.
Oh, we got this.
Drawing will look- Still call it the wrong that or in line.
Okay, I see that. Miss.
Yeah, I may be alone up here on the board, but the steel columns being even with the front of the building is what concerns me.
Okay, even if it's open air,
It's
you
a
can
little
still
bit,
see the side of the house. There's nothing that's covered. It's open air.
that helps.
If we move on to number 2, the breeze block that's indicated in the drawings currently was not part of the drawings that was submitted the first go-round. And that is another concern of mine because it too blocks the east side of the old structure,
The one on, the breeze block
the blocks.
from,
So if you look at the elevation that's indicated here, let me see what page that's on. Page 51.
This guy right here?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
Well, we've been discussing the corner and how the pergola structure really is situated exactly flush with the front side of the house. The guidelines are a 10-foot setback. But if we move on to one of the other staff comments here, it talks about the breeze block and how it does kind of block the east side of the structure.
This is the far east wall.
Correct, yes.
That's
And I know it's frustrating. I've been in your shoes, so I know it's frustrating. And I've lost every time I've tried to ask something that was outside of the standards and guidelines. But the breeze block is a material that you're just not accustomed to seeing in the historic district. It's a bit. I was wondering, is there a historic inspiration for using that? What we're concerned is we want to see the building. We're trying as best we can. And again, there's height and there's setbacks. There's all kinds of ways that we accommodate as best we can. And I know you're frustrated, but that is not a material we're accustomed to seeing in the historic district. And I want
that thing next door, that development they built. We want to satisfy it. So what do we need to do?
what we're asking you is is there an alternative here? Can we keep it more open? Because otherwise, I think the two primary issues are the being flush with the house and then that block. Those are the only two things I think. I haven't heard anybody else talk about anything. What can we do to move this forward but address those two concerns?
We already next week. We got something. Over, we can go wire, something like that, or what would work?
I thought you did a really nice job of incorporating the OMA fence. Is there something that would be similar to that would work?
I'm not telling me.
I can incorporate anything. Just restaurant. I'm a general contractor, sorry, he's the owner. We're working together and just.
Can we go back to the slide that shows the 2021 submitted?
Rock wall. Instead of that block.
Well, it certainly doesn't work in your favor for exposing the east side of the house.
Well, there's really nothing, is there anything blocking the house? Because there's, on the east side, that fence doesn't go all the way to the street, I don't think. So,
The fence is this right here, bottom page 51. I think Amy's talking about.
I know, but to the right there, this lower area,
I think that's the.
That's the only fence that they're trying to salvage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the floor elevation.
That's what that is.
What about moving forward without the block, without anything there? Give thought to what you might propose and come back to the board at an additional, another time to propose something. I don't really want to be in the business of us telling you what to do or what to use or design your project. But I know if you go back on page 51 that we had up there a minute ago, if you don't use any decorative block and just leave it at the height, it's below the decorative block, and move forward with your project, that's something I would support. And if you want to come back to try to close in, correct. Correct. And again, I'm not for closing it, but I think some other design ideas might be explored that we might be amenable to.
I like your 2020 request with the planters there. It leaves it nice and open, and that would provide it. Oh, yeah. I like that. I mean, I don't want to tell you what to do, obviously, but I think it looks nice what you had last time.
And the previous submittal was much more in keeping with the guidelines. The previous submittal was much more in keeping with the guidelines.
Absolutely, we can.
So we need to take it back some still?
That is the guideline.
I don't think the line of sight is a problem.
Yeah, no, I'm at least willing to explore with the board the idea if there's not the decorative blocks.
Yeah.
So you're looking at the 2021 request on page 51, then you're pretty much in every direction going to be able to see the historic building.
I agree with that.
I agree.
And what's the other thing we had to solve, the rock or the block?
On the block?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to proceed with the block. They're going to go along with their 2021 request. Yeah. Yeah.
What actually take it time to the,
Tell me again, on the steel post, how far away from the house is that? The one that's flush with the front? No, sir. Look over to your right. Yeah, that right there. How far is that post?
About 9 feet.
Looks like,
Because you have a deck that comes off from the existing structure, that's going to be a covered seating, outdoor air dining, and those posts are just on the side of that deck. And I believe it comes out 8'10", 9 foot, somewhere right there.
has that deck been issued?
no, not for me.
Well, we just want to get this thing going.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Is the deck attached to the existing structure?
Those supposed to be cut down, right, a little bit? That's not the height of that they'll end up, those posts.
No.
You see, it shows it coming under the eave of the front,
That is correct. Yes,
pretty
sir.
close to that brown line.
That's correct.
In the 2021 request, it looks like It appears that the planter is the same height as the building. Would you think that's accurate?
It would be the same height as the deck.
Okay. Yes, feel free to make a motion if you're ready.
I've got a question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So another comment, can you elaborate on the windows you're using?
We've already swapped the windows out to wood clad windows. Some of the windows in the house, whenever Bo bought it, were replaced and with a new vinyl window. We've already swapped them out to match the old existing wood windows.
Thank you.
Well,
Does anyone have any safety concerns about that being the same height as the deck?
And we did the windows on both sides, right?
Correct. Both sides, east and west.
Now, one front window is plexiglass. You do that plexiglass. I think we're gonna maybe put the old style glass back in that window.
Antique style glass to match the other glass that's there.
Oh, man. I like it pretty, yeah, but
That's great, thank you.
that'll be like.
Excuse me, what's the height of the deck?
Yeah,
After certain height, railing.
It's higher than that. You talk about the side deck or the front deck?
You said the planters will align with the top of the deck, correct? So what's the height? What will be that height?
I believe they're 4 foot.
Oh, that's higher than code
Okay.
requirement for the railing. You have to have railing.
Well, there's going to be railing there. There'll be railing along the eastern side of the deck that runs along the building. Yes, there will be handrail.
Is that depicted somewhere? Your railing, or were you not going to do? I guess you didn't propose railing because you thought you were going to have a block.
Correct.
Can you elaborate on the fountain? Can you elaborate on the fountain? The style of the fountain?
I haven't decided on the, but it'll be.
Concrete, iron.
No, I mean, I think it's concrete and dirt. It's called.
We have a couple of questions, maybe Daniel or in. Taking away the decorative block does present a code issue with a need for railing. Can't really approve it until we see the railing and what's proposed.
So can we make a motion basically and have him come back to you with a railing is what we'd like, I think.
I'd like to be able to approve the application.
Removing the, so can somebody form a motion removing
Hold on,
the, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that you can approve, piecemeal approval if you've got a certain part like the railing that you don't want to approve or you can't approve. Accept that from your motion and direct how you want that to be handled, whether it's administratively or come back to the board.
Just for clarification, it looks like the breeze block is the back of the bar. It's not part of the railing.
So is that the bar there, where the breeze block the breeze block is?
Yes.
Okay,
And surrounding the private dining in the back.
okay.
Yeah. Let me make a motion and then we can not second it and then we can make another motion. Or you want to go first? Yeah. Okay. Let me, this is what, it's a starting point. I make a motion on application number 2185 to approve the application as submitted with the exception of the applicant does not use the decorative block. And that the alternative plan to use a railing can be submitted to Anna and approved administratively. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right.
Sorry, I meant to ask if there's any more discussion.
I have one question, just to clarify, you do want us to move this pergola back 10 feet from the front of this construction? Because,
That wasn't my motion.
okay, I'm asking the question because holes are there, there's a lot of work already occurred. If that happens, we have to basically tear all of that down and start over again.
That wasn't my motion.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what he said is as long as it continues to stay open and you're able to see the building, so eliminating the breeze block and coming up with an alternative, then we are fine with not moving it back.
I'll put that in writing.
Okay,
Well, or the side.
okay.
Okay,
That would kill the whole deal for me too. I don't want-
okay.
All right.
Any other discussion?
So we get back to work?
All in favor, say aye.
Call them in. Let's
All
go.
right, thank
All
you.
in favor, same sign.
Thank you.
Application 2185 is approved with contingency.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a blessed night. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, unless you just want to hang out and listen to the rest. That sounds like good. Okay, let's see. Next is application 22-064, 406 East Main Street. And y'all are welcome to come up to the podium and discuss the project. Oh, sorry, Anna, your comments.
All right, application 22-064 at 406 East Main Street is also in the Central Business District, and it is currently an empty lot. The applicant is requesting approval to expand the previously approved off-site parking lot at 406 East Main. I have cited the relevant sections of lot coverage, service areas, and parking, preservation of landscape features, and staff's recommendation, the proposed parking lot is meant to provide parking for the immigrant building being built at Washington and East Main. That property requires 38 parking spaces, of which it has 24 on-site. 13 spots were previously approved for off-site. The new request expands the new parking lot to 28 spots. Board action on January 11th, approval of the new parking lot with a solid fence to be the same height as the existing fence. So adding a parking lot in the middle of the 400 block of East Main adds a physical and visual disruption to the block. Parking is required to be in the rear and to be screened with landscaping. Since the new number of spots is over what is required, every effort should be made to mitigate the visual and physical impacts of parking by reducing the number to allow more screening between Main Street and the parking spots. Negative impacts to the large live oak trees should also be mitigated. And this also has to go to planning and zoning for their approval.
Okay, now you are welcome to come up and address some of Anna's concerns. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Randy Staling. I'm with SKT Architects. Along with me here this evening is Brandon Weinheimer, also with our office. And we have Kyle Stegner here who's representing the property owner. Anna's correct that the parking is for the immigrant. And the parking that the board previously approved and planning and zoning approved was the minimum required parking that was needed for the immigrant. Recognizing, however, that the parking requirements that the city has are minimums, the owner has realized that it would be a good idea to add some additional parking, especially in that part of town. It's already very congested. They do know and have plans to develop the rest of the property at some point. That's why the majority of that property to the east of this parking area is being left open. There are no definite plans yet to what that development would be. Certainly it would be some sort of a building there, and this parking would almost certainly be part of that parking for that building. But in the meantime, the immigrant could use more parking. So they've recognized that. The additional parking that we're proposing is screened from on the east and west sides. The additional spaces that we've added continue to be set back from Main Street, the same distance as they were before. We have, I think, a robust landscape area between the street and the parking. And there's parking on Main Street, along Main Street itself there. So before you see this parking, you would look past the tops of the cars that would be parked on Main Street, past the landscaping, and past the screening that we have on both sides of the property. So other than that, I'm open for any questions.
In the renderings here, I don't see any gate. Is there there will be no gate access? How will you control, will anyone be able to park there or just folks staying?
The intent is that it will be controlled by signage. There's no proposal at this point, but gates
Okay.
At the entrances.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
right now we're going to work on the honor system. So. We do have a civil engineer involved in the project, Alan Linscott was civil engineering consultants with San Antonio, but the design is not purely architectural. It is something that he's very experienced in working with TxDOT, also with the city's engineering department. Considerable thought has been given to the entry and exit to the lot to make it a safe condition for everyone.
Would it be possible to put in landscaping at the very back? I see you have some space behind the parking area.
On the back side of?
Yeah. Very back, straight back.
Yes. Could we bring the plan up so we could see that? Are you referring to the open corners at the back end?
The dotted area that indicates, that.
Yes.
Because you still have people on Austin Street that can look this way.
Sure. Do you have any suggestions on what kind of landscaping you'd like to see there? Are there maybe some decorative ornamental trees, maybe some shrubs, things like that? I think if that got us across the finish line, I think that's very reasonable.
Do we have the drawing as to how it was approved before?
I don't think so, Amy.
The parking
Can
in
you-
general is just concentrated in a single row along the west side of the property with a access aisle to the east of that. This proposal just proposes to add another aisle of parking to get more, really generally make better use of the aisle we already have there.
Well, I think any off-street parking we can accumulate in town is good. Because these people, they would just be parked in front of every commercial in every house. Commercial location, every house within 3 blocks, if it wasn't here.
Well, I think the owners realize that these people are going to find a place to park. So the reason you might recall that the parking was located where it was at was that it met the city's requirement for remote parking facilities. So we're within that distance. So they recognize that they're going to have a parking demand in that part of town. I think they see that this additional parking will only add, will help the immigrant and help that area of town. Their intent is not to try to create an eyesore, so they're very open to all the recommendations for screening, landscaping, things such as that.
Because the city, well, on San Antonio Street for the restaurants there, they mandate extra off-site parking, which they all lease across the street. Augustees, all of them. So this is really no different. It just happens to be on Main Street.
I make a motion to approve application number 22-064 as submitted with the, well, as submitted.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Sorry,
Yes, I know.
you don't hear that very often.
Let's not take that as a negative omen.
Everywhere you have ground that's not paved and all these islands and everything, you
Yeah.
can plant all the trees you want. That would help out.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm sure that your client would mind doing that.
Right. We'll take that under recommendation. Yes, sir.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Yes, motion passes. Application 22-064.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And then number 8, any discussion items this evening? Anna, here. Okay. Anyone from the board have a discussion item or question?
So I didn't disagree with your comments about the fence, but I felt a little unprepared to comment because I didn't know what had been approved or declined in the past. Now, clearly I can recognize that it was an historical fence, but I just felt a little unprepared. I didn't know how to deal with that. Can you guys help me out?
I think that's where we just use the standards and guidelines because we should be consistent. So it shouldn't, what they've done before, I mean, there may have been circumstances where they did allow something different, but it was a special or unique circumstance. So that's why we judge everyone on its own merit. And it's a new construction, so I wasn't so concerned about historic fencing for a new house. But yeah, everyone's on its own merit. Because there would be no way for you to understand every application they've approved before.
Yeah, and just so you know, I know you know this, but it's page 337, 3-37 it's not real clear.
Okay.
To me. I mean, it's a guideline. It's, there's some ways to interpret it.
Okay.
Height to me is the biggest because it's been such a recurring. I think it's going to become more and more and more, I predict. I think Anna predicted it first. So I just wanted to see what the board thought about that.
Yeah.
But the materials to be used, I mean, I don't know that any of the things we're doing are truly historic, other than a
Right.
rock fence or.
Rock side.
I also want to add that the guidelines and standards are relatively new that you're operating under now, so it's a short history. So if something happened 3 years ago, it was different. Different criteria for the board to consider in making those decisions. So,
Okay.
so we have a relatively short history of the new standards and guidelines.
And 6 feet is in the guidelines, right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Well, I guess my question about the application would be, we want new houses to look newer in the district. Do we want their fences to look newer as well? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign.
Okay.